The sound of the spacecraft's engines hummed steadily as the crew continued their deep space voyage, heading toward an unexplored exoplanet. The mission, though routine, had promised the discovery of something extraordinary: the ruins of an ancient alien civilization, recently detected by an automated probe. For years, the team had trained and prepared for this moment, but nothing could prepare them for the revelation they were about to uncover. Dr. Meera Patel, the mission's lead linguist, sat in the ship's control room, her eyes glued to the holographic display in front of her. The alien texts, now scanned and uploaded from the ancient ruins, were displayed in an intricate script that seemed almost alive. The symbols danced across the screen, shifting and rearranging themselves in a way that was completely alien to the human eye. Despite the complexity, Meera felt a strange sense of familiarity. Something about the structure of the script was hauntingly recognizable. "I've seen this before," Meera murmured under her breath, her fingers brushing over the console. She zoomed in on one particular symbol that, although untranslatable, seemed strikingly similar to an ancient Sanskrit character. She narrowed her eyes, her breath catching in her throat. This was impossible. Sanskrit was one of Earth's oldest languages, used for centuries in religious texts, science, and philosophy. But how could an alien species, light years away, have such a similar writing system? Her mind raced as she compared the alien script to known ancient languages. The similarities were too striking to ignore. The sentence structure, the way certain symbols appeared and reappeared, everything about this was eerily close to Sanskrit. Meera blinked hard, trying to focus her thoughts. There was no way this could be right. Could it be that Earth's ancient texts had some sort of alien origin? Her heart pounded as she began translating the first few symbols, focusing on words she knew intimately from her studies. She spoke aloud to herself, translating in real time as the symbols began to slowly fall into place. "Planet, creation divine," Meera whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. The alien text seemed to be recounting a creation myth, one that mirrored many Earth-based religious beliefs but with subtle, alien differences. The word divine appeared several times, referring to a higher power or entity. It was a concept familiar to humanity's ancient mythologies, but now it was part of a foreign alien culture's origin story. A chill ran down Myra's spine. She quickly called the rest of the crew into the room. They gathered around her console, their faces filled with curiosity. She looked at each of them, trying to keep her composure. I think we've found something that connects us to these aliens in ways we never imagined," Meera said, her voice shaky but excited. "This language, it's almost identical to Sanskrit. It's as if the two civilizations, ours and theirs, are linked." The rest of the crew exchanged confused looks. Captain Alex Carter, a no-nonsense leader, raised an eyebrow. "Are you telling me that these aliens speak a language that's practically identical to something from Earth?" "Not just a language, Captain," Meera replied, her mind racing. "The structure, the grammar, the metaphors, they all match. It's too similar to be a coincidence. This alien civilization must have had contact with Earth, or perhaps they influenced us. These texts might be older than anything we've ever known." Dr. James Kwok, the mission's historian, leaned in closer, examining the holographic display. "You're suggesting that Earth's ancient cultures weren't as isolated as we thought? That our myths of gods and divine beings could be based on actual alien visitors?" Meera nodded. "That's exactly what I'm saying. It would explain so much about Earth's history, why certain ideas seem to have come from nowhere, why so many ancient cultures shared similar creation myths, why there's so much unexplained knowledge in our early civilizations." A tense silence filled the room. The implications of Myra's discovery were staggering. The idea that Earth's ancient history could have been shaped, or even guided, by extraterrestrial beings was a concept too profound to fully grasp. It opened up more questions than answers. Captain Carter broke the silence. "So, what does this mean for us now? We have alien texts, but they're still encrypted. If they know about us, then they could have a purpose for reaching out, right?" Meera took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Yes. And we need to figure out what that purpose is. We need to decode as much of this language as possible before someone else does. The crew nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. They were not just exploring ruins anymore. They had stumbled upon something much more significant. Myra's fingers flew over the console, inputting commands to scan through the alien texts at a faster rate. She knew that every second counted. As the texts flashed before her eyes, she noticed more connections to Earth's mythology and ancient writings. The stories spoke of celestial beings descending from the stars, of worlds beyond their own, and of a race that once guided humanity's evolution. These aliens seemed to have knowledge of Earth's civilizations, some of which predated recorded history. The writing described cities long since forgotten, technologies lost to time, and even hints at an ancient, cosmic conflict. But one phrase caught Myra's attention, a word that appeared repeatedly in the texts, tied to a powerful concept: karma. It wasn't just a passing reference to the philosophical idea of action and consequence. This word, written in the alien script, seemed to carry an even greater weight. It was linked to the very structure of the alien civilization, as if it were central to their existence. Myra couldn't help but wonder if this concept of karma was a form of universal law, something that transcended human belief and philosophy. But more importantly, why did these aliens seem to be warning humanity about it? What was their relationship with Earth, and why had they left these messages for future generations to find? As the crew began working on deciphering more of the texts, Myra couldn't shake the feeling that they had just uncovered the tip of a massive iceberg. If the alien language was so similar to Sanskrit, then perhaps there were more hidden connections between their civilization and humanity's distant past. The potential for discovery was limitless, and as Myra realized, so were the dangers. She turned to the rest of the crew, her voice firm. We need to prepare for the possibility that these aliens are more than just ancient observers. They might be watching us now, and they may expect us to follow in their footsteps. Captain Carter's face hardened. Then we'll be ready. We've made the first step into the unknown, and we can't back down now. Myra nodded. The journey ahead would not be easy, but it was necessary. The truth they had uncovered was only the beginning. The alien language was a gateway to a deeper understanding of the universe and of humanity's place within it. And as the ship continued its journey, Myra couldn't help but feel that they were not just exploring alien ruins. They were uncovering the forgotten past of their own species, a past that had been waiting to be rediscovered, hidden among the stars. Weeks had passed since Myra's initial discovery, and the crew's understanding of the alien texts had deepened, though the revelations only grew more perplexing. The initial excitement had shifted into focused investigation. The alien language, now partly decoded, seemed to describe an incredibly advanced civilization that existed long before humans. Yet the deeper they dug, the more they found that this alien society appeared to have interacted with Earth's distant past, shaping it in ways humanity had never imagined. Myra sat in the command center, her face illuminated by the flickering holographic texts. The words had become more coherent, their meanings clearer with each translation, and the connection to ancient Sanskrit was undeniable. Some phrases mirrored the ancient texts of Earth civilizations so closely that they could no longer be dismissed as coincidence. The more she uncovered, the more convinced she became that these ancient alien texts held the keys to understanding Earth's true origins. One of the more disturbing revelations was the alien civilization's level of technological advancement. The texts detailed machines capable of harnessing energy on a scale that seemed almost godlike. Technologies for space travel, energy manipulation, and even the control of time itself were described in detail, far surpassing anything humanity had achieved or even conceived. Yet there was no evidence that these technologies had been passed down to Earth, at least not directly. The alien texts hinted at the possibility that humanity had once been privy to this knowledge, but had lost it over millennia. The technology described here, Myra said, speaking aloud as she continued translating a new segment of text, it's not just advanced. It's almost transcendent. These beings were capable of altering the very fabric of reality. We've never seen anything like this on Earth. Dr. Kwok, who had become her closest ally in this research, nodded. If these aliens left us their technology, it was either hidden or destroyed.
But why?
Why would they give us such power and then remove it? Mira furrowed her brow. I think we're looking at something more than just a gift. The text seemed to suggest they were guiding humanity's development, like gardeners tending to a garden. But for what purpose? The idea that Earth's early civilizations might have been steered by these extraterrestrial beings was unsettling. If this was true, then much of human history, including its myths and religions, could have been based on actual events involving alien contact. The texts even referred to celestial beings who came to Earth and shared their knowledge, teaching early humans how to build, how to harness the elements, and how to understand the cosmos. The more I read, the more I think the connection between these aliens and Earth is more than just a distant interaction, Mira continued, tapping away at the console. These beings believed humanity was their successor, that we would eventually inherit their mantle. They saw something in us, something we haven't even begun to understand. Kwok leaned forward, studying the ancient texts displayed on the screen. What if their departure wasn't voluntary? What if something happened, something catastrophic? These texts could be their last attempt to leave a message, a warning of sorts. Mira paused, considering this new possibility. Maybe they saw something in us. Maybe we were on the brink of understanding their technology, and they feared what we might do with it. Or worse, what might happen if we didn't understand it. The more Mira translated, the more she found references to a mysterious event, something that seemed to have caused the downfall of the alien civilization. The text spoke of a cosmic disaster, something that shattered their society and caused them to retreat from the galaxy. It wasn't clear what exactly had happened, but the survivors of this event were determined to leave behind a legacy that could one day help the next great species, humanity. In the course of her research, Mira discovered a particularly striking section of the text that seemed to describe the concept of karma in a way that was central to the alien civilization's way of life. But it wasn't just the concept of moral consequence. It was a universal force that governed not only personal actions, but the very fabric of reality itself. This cosmic law was so powerful that it controlled the rise and fall of civilizations, the success or failure of species, and even the direction of cosmic events. These beings didn't just teach us technology, Mira said, her voice quiet but firm. They were trying to teach us about balance, about universal laws. But I think they failed to account for one thing: human nature. Dr. Kwok raised an eyebrow. Human nature? Yes, Mira responded, her eyes narrowing. The texts mention a crucial turning point in their history, a moment when their understanding of karma was put to the test. And I think it's the same test that humanity faces now, whether we can wield this knowledge without destroying ourselves. They feared that, left unchecked, humanity might repeat the mistakes of the past. Her words hung in the air as the gravity of the situation settled over the crew. They were not just uncovering alien technology. They were unearthing the keys to a potential future where humanity could rise to greatness or descend into destruction. The responsibility they now held was immense. As Mira continued to work through the texts, she began to notice subtle references to Earth. It was as though the alien race had always been watching, waiting for the moment when humanity would be ready. The language described Earth as a world of potential, a planet that had yet to realize its true power. These aliens, they didn't just visit Earth. They guided us, influenced our cultures, and even embedded their knowledge into our ancient texts, Mira said, leaning back in her chair. We've always had the potential to be more than we are. But we've lost our way, or we've ignored the teachings that could have propelled us forward. Captain Carter, who had been silently observing the proceedings, stepped forward. Are you saying that this knowledge, these texts, could help us unlock the next stage of our evolution? The room fell into silence. The implications of what Mira was saying were profound. The aliens had left behind a roadmap for humanity's future, but it was clear that the path was fraught with challenges. The knowledge they had given humanity was a double-edged sword, immense power that could either elevate humanity to new heights or destroy it. Mira knew that the stakes had never been higher. The alien texts weren't just a treasure trove of ancient knowledge, they were a warning, a challenge. Humanity was at a crossroads, and the choices they made in the coming years would determine whether they would inherit the mantle left by these ancient beings or fall into the same traps that had led to the alien civilization's collapse. As the crew continued to study the alien language, the realization began to settle in. The fate of humanity was now intertwined with these long-lost visitors. The knowledge they had shared was both a gift and a responsibility, one that would require humanity to rise above its flaws and face the future with wisdom and caution. But as Mira looked at the alien text one last time, she couldn't help but wonder, had humanity truly learned enough to avoid the mistakes of the past? Or would history repeat itself once more? As Mira delved deeper into the alien texts, the enormity of what they had discovered became increasingly apparent. The texts were more than just artifacts of an ancient civilization. They were a guidebook, a blueprint for the future of humanity, if only humanity could comprehend and harness their true meaning. But the more she uncovered, the more questions emerged. What were these extraterrestrial beings trying to communicate? And more importantly, why had they disappeared from the universe entirely? The texts, now partially translated, were filled with references to a grand cosmic plan, one that involved not just the evolution of life on Earth, but the entire galaxy. According to the records, these beings had traveled across the cosmos, seeding worlds with life, shaping civilizations, and guiding them to greatness. They had watched over the rise and fall of countless species, leaving behind fragments of their knowledge, hoping that one day, a species would rise to take their place. But there was a catch. Humanity was not the first species to be chosen for this responsibility. These alien beings had made this offer to other civilizations throughout the galaxy, civilizations that had failed to live up to the task. Each one, they said, had fallen into ruin, succumbing to their own vices, unable to control the very power they had been given. There was a repeated theme throughout the texts. A species that could not control its own destiny would eventually destroy itself, taking its world, and potentially others with it. As Mira and the team worked tirelessly to decode more of the alien records, they began to understand the weight of the responsibility that had been placed on humanity. The aliens had seen potential in humans from the very beginning, but that potential came with conditions. These beings had not just gifted humanity with knowledge, they had embedded within Earth's early cultures the seeds of their own teachings, hoping that one day, humans would understand and rise to the challenge. The concept of karma, as mentioned in the texts, was far more than a simple moral philosophy. It was a universal law that governed not only the actions of individuals, but the fates of entire civilizations. The alien texts explained that the balance between creation and destruction was delicate. A civilization that could not maintain that balance would inevitably crumble under the weight of its own contradictions. It was a concept that had been woven into Earth's religions, its myths, and even its scientific principles, though humanity had never fully understood it. "We're not just uncovering a history of an alien race," Mira said to the crew one evening, her voice trembling with the weight of her realization. "We're uncovering a warning about what happens when power is abused, when knowledge is misused. These beings left us with a message: don't repeat their mistakes." Dr. Kwok, who had been studying the texts alongside her, nodded slowly. "They're showing us the path forward, but we have to be willing to walk it. They're not here to hold our hand. They've already left. All we have is the knowledge they left behind. And it's up to us to decide whether we rise to the challenge or fall like the others." The crew was silent as Myra's words sank in. The knowledge they had uncovered was not just a gift, it was a test. The alien civilization had reached its zenith, only to be undone by its own failures. If humanity hoped to avoid the same fate, it had to learn from those mistakes and ensure that the power they wielded would not consume them. Mira spent the next few days diving deeper into the text, her thoughts consumed by the realization that humanity stood at a precipice. There was a part of the alien writings that described the final stages of their civilization, the moment when they had realized that they could no longer maintain the balance. They had been on the verge of using their advanced technology to reshape the very fabric of the universe, but they had feared the consequences. Their greatest mistake had been assuming that their knowledge was enough to control the forces they had unleashed. "It's all connected," Mira muttered to herself one night. The creation, the destruction, the knowledge. The aliens thought they could control it, but in the end, they were overwhelmed by their own hubris. Her mind raced as she pieced together the final fragment of the alien records. The text described the moment of their downfall, a cosmic event that had shattered their civilization. It was not an external force, but an internal one, a realization that the balance they had maintained for so long had tipped. The alien race, in their final years, had tried to warn others. They had scattered their knowledge across the stars, hoping that one day, a species would find it and learn from their mistakes. Myra's hands trembled as she translated the last words of the text. "The mantle is yours," it read. "Do not fail as we did." The weight of those words hung in the air. The aliens had not just left a message for humanity, they had left a challenge. A challenge to live up to the potential they had seen in humans, to rise above the flaws and temptations that had led their own species to ruin. "Do you think we're ready?" Dr. Kwok asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. Mira closed her eyes for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "I don't know. But I do know one thing. We don't have a choice. The knowledge is here. The question is whether we'll use it wisely, or if we'll let it destroy us." The room fell silent again, as the crew absorbed the gravity of Myra's words. The alien civilization's teachings had been meant for humanity, but they had been given with the understanding that they would be tested. Humanity had the opportunity to ascend to a new level of existence, but with that power came the burden of responsibility. The path was unclear, and the risks were immense. But if they failed, the consequences would be devastating, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. Captain Carter, who had remained quiet through much of the conversation, spoke up. "We need to act, and we need to act fast. We've uncovered something far beyond our understanding. But if we can use it right, we might be able to avoid the mistakes these aliens made." Mira nodded. "We have to find a way to balance the knowledge and the power, to move forward without repeating the same errors. It's the only way to honor what they left us." The next few days were spent preparing the crew for the next phase of their mission. The texts had given them the keys to unlock unimaginable potential, but the path forward was treacherous. There was no guidebook, no manual to follow. The choices humanity made would shape their future, and Mira knew that the responsibility was now in their hands. The aliens had left behind a legacy, but it was up to humanity to ensure that it would be a legacy of hope, not destruction. As Mira stood before the console, watching the stars stretch out before her, she felt a sense of both awe and dread. The journey ahead would not be easy, but it was the only path forward. The test had been set, and humanity's fate was now in their own hands. Would they rise to the challenge, or would they fall as the aliens had before them? Only time would tell. As the days passed, the crew's understanding of the alien texts grew more profound, but so did the pressure. The magnitude of what they were dealing with weighed heavily on each of them. The knowledge they had uncovered, its implications, the warnings, had transformed their mission from a simple exploration into a race against time. With each translation, they were uncovering not just the history of an ancient alien race, but the very keys to humanity's future. The question that lingered in the air was whether humanity was ready for such responsibility. Mira found herself consumed by the task. Her thoughts no longer rested on the academic challenge of decoding the alien language, but on the potential consequences of their discoveries. These texts were more than a record of a lost civilization. They were a testament to the risks of unchecked power and the inevitability of cosmic balance. The aliens had left behind a legacy, one that demanded more than just intellectual engagement. It demanded wisdom, self-restraint, and an understanding of the delicate equilibrium that governed life, the universe, and existence itself. The concept of karma, so central to the alien philosophy, began to take on a new meaning. The text suggested that the aliens had once harnessed immense power, technological, philosophical, and even metaphysical, but they had failed to understand the limits of that power. As their civilization advanced, their actions became increasingly reckless. Their belief in their own superiority led them to believe they could control the very forces of the universe, but that assumption proved disastrous. Their downfall was not a single event, but a gradual erosion of balance, a loss of the harmony that had once sustained them. "We need to think carefully," Mira said to the crew, her voice carrying a sense of urgency. "The power we're talking about here, it's not something we can control without consequences. These texts, the teachings, they're not just about advanced technology. They're about balance. If we don't understand that, we could be repeating the very mistakes the aliens made." Dr. Kwok leaned forward, his face etched with concern. "But we've seen the potential of their technology. We've seen the possibility of what we could achieve if we understood it fully. Couldn't this be our chance to break free from the limitations we've had for centuries?" Mira shook her head. "It's not just about power. It's about what we do with that power. These beings didn't fall because they lacked knowledge. They fell because they couldn't handle what they had. They believed they could reshape the universe to their will, and it destroyed them." Captain Carter, who had been unusually quiet throughout the conversation, spoke up. "So, what do you suggest we do, Mira? Do we just stop studying it? Do we leave these texts behind, pretend we never found them?" The question hung in the air, and Mira hesitated before answering. "No, we can't just walk away. The knowledge is here, and it's ours to explore. But we need to be careful. We can't allow our ambition to cloud our judgment. The aliens left us a path to follow, but it's not a road that's easy to walk. It's a path that requires wisdom, restraint, and humility." The room fell silent as Myra's words sank in. The crew had no choice but to confront the gravity of their situation. The temptation to push forward, to unlock the full potential of the alien knowledge, was powerful. But the warning was clear. Without understanding the balance, without recognizing the limits of their power, humanity could very well suffer the same fate as the aliens. "We need to learn from them," Mira continued, her voice steady. "We need to embrace their teachings, but with caution. The goal isn't to surpass them. It's to prevent ourselves from falling into the same traps. We can take what they've left us, but only if we use it responsibly." Dr. Kwok stood up and began pacing, clearly struggling with the weight of the decision. It's hard to imagine humanity, with all its flaws, being able to follow this path. We've always been driven by ambition, by the desire to conquer, to expand. It's hard to reconcile that with this notion of balance and restraint. "I know," Mira replied softly, "but we have to try. If we don't, we risk everything. These texts, they're a gift, yes, but they're also a challenge. They're asking us to rise above our nature, to evolve into something more than we are." Captain Carter, who had been listening intently, looked at Mira with a serious expression. "You're asking us to place our faith in humanity's ability to change. You're asking us to believe that we can take this knowledge and not abuse it." Mira met his gaze and nodded. "Yes, I am. Because if we don't, then we're no better than the aliens who left this behind. We're doomed to make the same mistakes. But if we do this right, if we learn from their failures and embrace the lessons they left for us, then we might just have a chance to succeed." The crew was silent, each person grappling with the enormity of what they were being asked to do. The knowledge they had uncovered was both a gift and a burden. It was a promise of unimaginable potential, but it came with the weight of responsibility. To move forward, they had to understand that their actions had consequences far beyond anything they had ever imagined. As the crew worked together to continue decoding the alien texts, Myra's sense of urgency grew. There was still so much left to uncover, but she knew that time was not on their side. The alien civilization had left behind a roadmap for humanity's future, but the path was not one that could be blindly followed. They had to navigate it carefully, using both the knowledge they had gained and the wisdom they had acquired through experience. With each new translation, they uncovered more about the alien race's rise and fall, and with it, more about the universe's delicate balance. The aliens had believed that they were the masters of their own destiny, that they could shape reality to their will. But in the end, they had been humbled by the very forces they thought they could control. The lesson was clear: power, unchecked and unbalanced, would always lead to ruin. "We can't afford to ignore this," Mira said, her voice resolute. "The future is ours to shape, but we have to be wise about how we do it. If we're not careful, we could destroy ourselves before we ever have a chance to reach the potential these aliens saw in us. As the crew continued their work, the sense of responsibility grew heavier. They were not just uncovering ancient secrets, they were shaping the future of humanity. The stakes had never been higher, and the path forward was fraught with uncertainty. But one thing was certain: the choices they made in the coming days would determine whether humanity would rise to greatness or fall victim to the same mistakes that had destroyed the aliens who had once watched over them. Only time would tell whether humanity was ready to embrace the challenge and the knowledge left behind.